Today's video, we are going to talk about lookalike segments that you can use with Google demand gen campaigns and discuss whether or not they work. The answer to that is, after reading the title you already know, but yes, they do work, but you just have to know how to make them work, because they're not going to work most of the time without it, especially with no background information or knowledge about how they work. So if you want to try a whole bunch of things to figure out how they work, be my guest, or you can just take the information I'm offering you for free in this video after running several of these campaigns with the lookalike segments and make them work right away, or virtually right away. That said, I'll go through the different types of lookalike segments configurations that you can use. Of course, the segment reach that you should use along with it. And so with that, everything you need, assuming you have the right ad and right landing page to use with your demand gen campaigns, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well in this video, you'll have everything you need to make these campaigns work, to get new traffic, that people that do not know anything about you yet, to be able to come to your site and buy or turn into a lead. That said, we get into the content. Lookalike segments unlike the similar segments that Google used to have, because Google had similar segments as well, they retired that about 6 months ago, are not like the lookalike segments that Google just came out with recently because of one specific thing. They operate similarly in terms of the performance that we get, because I've ran both. I've ran several lookalike segment demand gen campaigns, ran more than quite a few different discovery and other display campaigns with similar segments. They both have good sales potential, ROI potential. You cannot use lookalike segments in display campaigns or YouTube campaigns or anything else besides the new Google demand gen campaigns. Unfortunately, maybe they come to their senses, which I understand. I think Google's move is smart here. They're trying to get people to use the demand gen campaigns. And they know if they give the feature that everybody wants and that they took away from us, that people would be willing to use these lead gen campaigns. And we get them excited about using it, and therefore they will use it. So maybe they'll let us use these lookalike segments in other campaigns. So far, it's just the Google demand gen campaigns. But Google demand gen campaigns are actually good, by the way, to use over regular display campaigns, because you get to run your ads on just YouTube and Gmail, which the traffic quality is better because Google has a better handle about what clicks are fake and which ones are real, and therefore you're paying for a higher percentage of real traffic. So I always recommend you go demand gen campaigns first before you go display network campaigns. Outside of search engine traffic, you want to go typically YouTube ads though before demand gen campaigns, because in a video ad, assuming you know how to put one together and you follow the advice I have for that on this channel, you can get so much more across in a video than you can through a demand gen campaign ad. So, and of course I know videos is a part of that, but I'm just saying in general, you know what I'm saying here. Video ads are doing better than regular banner ads and other like responsive display ads and stuff, because video is just, it works better nowadays. Anyway, with that said, similar segments that Google used to have, they would work well, or the level that they would work to bring you in a profitable set of customers was all based upon the data that the lookalike, the similar segments were tied to. The more of the data you had, the better the campaign performance potential you had. But more importantly, the sample of data that you had for Google to look at, the better the campaign performance potential. And this is no different. Google wants you to provide seed data, which can obviously be a customer list or an email list in general of different types, which we'll talk about how you can use other than your customer list itself. You can use other people's lists. Or it could be somebody who comes to your website or part of your website, but the quality of the data that you provide will affect dramatically your results. what you want is, and what this ultimately works, is if you give Google a list of 10,000 customers, they're going to look at all the data that they have on all 10,000 customers and find the similarities between them, and then your ad is just going to run to people that have those same overlapping traits, essentially. So they'll find out their age, their gender, what sites they visit, what they like, because Google not only has a lot of their own data, if you know, whether you know this or not, I'll let you know here, they also buy data from a lot of third parties, apps, data brokers, and so they, just on you yourself, they know thousands of different things about you, and they put you in these categories. And so when you give them a list of 10,000 customers, they can pretty well know what's going on. And most of the time when you buy something, you're going to research it beforehand. Well, they look at all the different search behavior behind the 10,000 customers you gave it, and they kind of understand that if you go to this site and this site and this site, you're probably going to buy. There's like an 80% chance they're going to buy, and so then they know in the future your ad should show up for that person if they've been to at least these 3 sites or what have you. But so anyway, that's in general how the system works. And so therefore, if you provide a list of 10,000 random people, it's not going to help them. If you provide a list of 10,000 customers, that helps you a lot because they can understand what a customer typically does and looks like and likes and does not like, to get you more people like them and with your demand gen campaign and get that to be profitable for you. So with that said, I provided the list of ways to do your seed data with these lookalike segments to get you the most money. Your ideal is going to be towards the top here. Okay, so if you have customer data and at least 10,000 customers to upload to as your seed list for your lookalike segments, that's going to work the best because they're going to be like I was explaining before with what they're trying to do to find you customers. That's going to give them the most accurate read on the type of people that do business with you. Assuming they buy online and they research online. If they were to only buy offline, it wouldn't really help them a lot. But even then, they'll still be able to understand individual traits about the people on the demographics level and so on and so forth. So the reason why, Google by default wants you to have at least 1,000 names on your customer list to upload. I mentioned 10,000 because definitely it seems like it works better if you're in the 10K plus category in terms of the list size. Because the more customers you have, the more accurate decisions they're going to make. So you might be able to get by with just 1,000. If you want to try it, try it. In general, after the several times of doing this already, the people that had over 10,000 customer lists, that worked by far the best. So I just want to tell you that up front. If you don't have a 10,000 plus customer list, perhaps if you're doing a product company, you can do cart data. So is anybody who's got to your shopping cart at least, which that gives you obviously 3 or 4 or 5 times as much data to work with. Because there's a lot of people who hit your cart who don't buy. And if you could provide a list of 10,000 cart visitors, that'll work real well as well. You could obviously do it up to or as little as 1,000 cart visitors, but again, it's not going to provide nearly the results if you had 10,000 customer or cart visit people on your list. So if you have to, go for the cart visitors. Cart visitors isn't going to provide you as good a results because it's not going to have as good a read on the type of people who buy because there's a lot of people on that list who don't buy, as you probably or should know or what makes sense. So customer if you have it, customer list if you have it, if not cart visitors. Then if you don't have either of those, what I would recommend is doing site visitors. Again, 10,000 or more is better or best. 1,000 really doesn't work that great. When I say site visitors, and I put it here, it depends on the source of the traffic to your site. Now, there are situations like we had a foundation repair company, okay? It did well with just having people that go to the site to build and use as our lookalike segments and seed list for the lookalike segment. Why is that, or why did that work so well? Well, nobody's going to really, for fun, go look into foundation repair. Now this was a regional company, so it was a little easier to do this, to get 10,000 plus visits to the site a month. But for the most part, it should make sense to you that You're not going to look at this for fun. If you're on a site about foundation repair, you're probably in the market for a foundation. So even though you don't have raw customer data, it's like irrelevant, because all those people aren't there. There's no chance of them making it to the site if they're not already in market for foundation repair. Yes, it would be better if we had just customer data, but it's already it's pretty close in terms of the data. And not only that, it works better using the 10,000 plus visits to a site a month as your seed data than it is to use 2,000-3,000 customer names, and because we also verified that as well. So go for, in a lot of cases, you certainly might be better just going with site visitors instead of the customer data, because you have a lot more data for Google to look at. If you're in a niche where people don't browse or look around for fun, and if the traffic you have to your site is clean traffic. Now this part's very important. The reason why that foundation repair company did so good, and even better than using the customer data itself, is because all the traffic that site would get was all traffic that's coming from our Google PPC campaigns and organic traffic. So not only would you not make it to that site if you weren't in market, but the traffic was really clean. It wasn't, because sometimes people will run like a display campaign or a YouTube campaign, and they'll get a bunch of like bot clicks and everything else to the site, and that screws up Google's machine learning. So if you were to not get results with site visitors, you had enough traffic to where you could say, Google, I don't want you to look at anybody but the people who clicked on my Google ad, excluding everything else. That can be a way to get much better results. So that's something else to entertain as you go. So that's something else to consider as you decide what's the most ideal seed data to work with, given that volume and quality of the data, cleanliness of the data, are both important factors. Ideally, you want a huge list with super clean data, but if you can't get it, cleaner data is sometimes better, depending on the size of the data you have less, and sometimes it's more data that's pretty clean. So there isn't no hard or fast rule there, and sometimes you're going to have to test both to find out what works best for you. For the most part, if the data is mostly clean, having more data is going to be better. Like where 80% of the visitors on your list are probably in-market people that are serious, that's good enough, and I will take 100,000 seed list over a 10,000 seed list with 100% relevant data on there, if that makes sense. Just to give you a general idea of what normally happens, what normally gets the best results. Anyway, with that said, one of the things that you can do that most people aren't going to think about now, and it basically is against Google's rules, but it's highly profitable, so you can decide if you want to do this or not. But you could use other people's customer data for your seed list. Now, there's sites, data broker sites out there where you can get customer data for Google to use as a seed list. And with that, so you go, Nextmark is one that I use often. Go ahead and type into Google Nextmark mailing lists. And there's a search engine where you can find other customer data lists, which people go to businesses like yours and they say, hey, it'll be a data broker company. And they'll say, hey, we'll give you $3 for every customer name on your list if you're willing to lease that customer data to us so that we can then find people who want to use that customer list. And it's just another way to monetize your customer data, which is obviously 100% profit margin, and a lot of people do it. So Nextmark would be that data broker, that middleman, if you will, that brings people who want access to the customer data and the people who have it without having to have them meet physically. And you can go to Nextmark and type in, if you're selling surfboards, you can type in surf gear or surf shops or whatever. And you oftentimes, for something like that, since it's fairly mainstream, find somebody, like 50,000 surf shop customer data list. And you can get that data list provided to Google as your seed list, and then they already now have, it's like having had your own 50,000 sized customer list for Google to draw all the parallels between all the people who buy from a surf shop, if you will. If you are in, I will say, if you are in something super niche, you're better off probably, instead of using the lookalike segments, just targeting people who've searched for that on Google, because it's just, you're better off that way. If you're in something more mainstream though, that's where you can go and use other people's customer lists and be better off. Why? Because there's a greater variety of people who are searching for that stuff. In the surf space, it's pretty broad. It's not too broad, but there's a lot of people that are going to be looking at that stuff who are not real buyers, looking for it for gifts, and so on and so forth. Whereas on the foundation repair example, if you're not on that site, you're a qualified prospect, like every time. So it's something to consider, because when you get the customer data, you're weeding out all those tire kickers, so that the machine learning that Google has isn't going to make any false assumptions, if you will. Whereas if you have something super niche, well, there's no customer lists that you can get access to because it's so niche. There's probably only, what, 5-6 companies doing it, and nobody who's selling their customer list data. You could use that customer data to serve as your seed list, but it's against Google's policies to have you use that customer data. I just know it's super, super profitable to do this. And ultimately what people will do is they will, for like in the personal injury space, like people that have an accident and they have to get life flighted, those cases are worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars to get those cases. And they'll buy data from data brokers of people that were near a helipad in the recent past. And then they'll target those people per se. Well, then if you also get that data and you build it up and you get it through a data broker of people that had that, you could use it as your seed list as well, and then have Google find out all the parallels of the people that also match that 10,000, list of people who were near a helipad, and then it could draw its own conclusions. Oh, all the people on this list were near a hospital helipad recently, so yeah, your ad should show up from now on for anybody near that any helipad. So you get what I'm saying here. It's a way, because in a lot of businesses like that personal injury law, it's hard to target the right people. They don't buy by doing research. So it's hard to target people who are in market because they don't reveal that they're in market. They just buy and or just need that service. So in that particular case, getting access to data from data brokers and then building a list off of that, a lookalike segment off of that, is the way to go per se, because you don't have a lot of other options. So anyway, that's another way to go about building your lookalike segment using seed data. Now, with that all set, to finish this up, I want to say that you should always start out with the narrow segment reach, because they'll give you 3 options for your segment reach. It'll be narrow, and then there's one in the middle, and then there's broad. I forgot the one in the middle, what it's called, and the reason why you start narrow is, well, this is just the policy you should have always when you do stuff online. Start conservative. If that works, you go broader, because the narrow targeting is going to have the highest chance of working. So why piss all your money away in 2 seconds with the broad setting and then not have any learning out of it when you could go narrow, see if it works, and if it doesn't have enough, giving you enough clicks, then you could go in the middle one, then the broad. But it's more so just because you're probably not going to get the broad segment reach to work, and the narrow one is the only one that's going to work. But even then, it would be much better to make the narrow segment reach work, use the money from that to finance the normal and then the broad. And given that the mid one and the broad is probably also going to take more time before it's working, you should create a different ad group for each one so you can see how they perform separately. And if the broad one's going to work, it's going to be after running it for many months for the algorithm that's set up to try to get you conversion at the cost per conversion you want on your demand gen campaign to finally figure it out. Whereas on the narrow setting, it'll figure it out quicker. So if you take the money from the narrow to finance the middle one, so if you take the money from the narrow one to finance the middle one, and it takes 6 months for it to work, you're fine. You're not going to run out of money. Versus if you start broad, you run out of money, you're out of the game. So as you start to target stuff that's more broad and with your digital marketing in general, just know it's going to take more testing to get it to work. And if you could test with money that if you're net positive on 90% of your advertising budget and 10% not, that 10% doesn't have to work, and you can wait many, many months for it to work. That's the philosophy I always follow. There's always going to be 10% of my budget that's getting no return, but it's financing the future growth. So anyway, with that said, that pretty much spells that out. So different ad groups for different segment reach, and then obviously with this as well, I would also recommend different ad groups because each going to perform differently. So you might end up with a lot of ad groups, but that's the proper way to do it. Now, I also said on the beginning of this video, I would tell you how to set up the ad and landing page briefly. I've got a video I made that goes more into this topic right before this video that I just published. The short of this is to say that you got to figure out what the people that you're selling to are going to find interesting, because you're going to be paying to have your ad show either way. If nobody clicks on it, you paid. They charge you per click on Google, but if your click-through rate's less, you're paying more per click, so effectively every time your ad shows up to your audience here, you're paying. So with that said, what can you do to suck out as much attention and demand from every time your ad shows as possible? Because the more you do that, the more you're going to make. And so with that said, a lot of times it's not just marketing your product or service as is. If you've got a cool looking product, showing that product as is in action, or like a snapshot of what it doing something, that could be good enough. For a lot of you guys though, if you're doing something like offering a accounting service, just saying you have an accounting service, that ain't gonna work. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. What you can say is, if you know that if your seed list is targeting all 50,000 people that you've worked at or worked with in the past at your accounting firm, and with that said, given it can look at all the things that people do before they become a customer and get a beat on who's generally going to be buying accounting service in the near future, you're going to have a piece of content or an ad that says, before hiring an accountant, you must read this information, and then send them to a little ebook, get their information. Once you got them to download the ebook, have a system set up so 5 minutes later you can immediately call them, like we often do here. We run many campaigns like this at our firm, and then you just talk to them and say, hey, I noticed you downloaded our ebook, I wrote that. Do you want any free assistance on helping you make a decision on who you think you want to go with? Talk to them, give them more free information, and then now you have the ability to have that business locked down. So instead of just trying to go at them with just the offer of what you sell itself, you may need to ease them into it so that you can get them their attention with what they really would care to see. Because ultimately, if you go out in the street and you say, accounting services, accounting services, accounting services, nobody's going to give a shit. Even if they are hiring an accountant soon. It's like, why do I care about yours? And in fact, because you're advertising, why should I? It's like, you obviously don't have a very good service. Versus if you go the other angle, like I said, it's a totally different story. So you got to figure out what people would click on and offer that. Even if it complicates the situation, because what people don't want to do is they don't want to set up a funnel. They just want people to see the ad, buy. And if you don't have something super interesting, that's not going to be good enough. And that's really the short of it, and that's why most people can't get non-search engine advertising to ever work for them, because they never figure that out. And then, ultimately, like I said on my previous video, a lot of times you'd be best off nowadays having your demand gen ad send people to a YouTube video directly that pitches the full thing, because people are more willing to watch a video than go to a landing page and start reading. Not always, but that's one of our more favorite tactics we have to get any display advertising online, non-search engine advertising to work. Because video can convey so much in a little time span without asking that prospect to do too much, to put too much effort in. And then from that video, then you can send them to a landing page. But even the landing page you send them to then isn't just asking them to buy enough or nothing, unless it's a $20 item. Then that sales page goes into further all the other benefits and pluses and all everything else about that product or service. Then you can ask them to go to then you can ask them to actually buy your product or service at that point. So good funnels that we've used before, there's at least 2, if not 3 to 4 or 5 steps in the process to actually get them from totally unaware prospect who's never seen or heard of you before, that might be in market for what you sell, to make sure that they understand that we're the only option for them. And it's a seduction process. It's just like trying to get a girl or guy, or for a guy we'll say, for a guy to get a chick. You can't go up and say, hey, do you want an F right away? Obviously, that's what you want, but you don't say that right away. And if you did it all at once, it wouldn't work. So anyway, watch my other video if you want more details about the funnel setup. But with that said, I'll wrap it up with that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about anything I covered here today, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a couple days' time. If you have any ad-related question, feel free to give me to leave a comment, and I'd be happy to get back to you just as a thank you for watching my channel. Beyond that, you should consider subscribing as well if you haven't already, because this channel is information coming from myself, who just does ad strategy all day long. I'm not a professional YouTuber, course seller, any of that garbage. Therefore, the information you get is pure and straight from the source. So if you're going to watch anything, you might as well watch this. This is the best information truly you're going to find. And furthermore, if you like the content here, I got a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog, as well as you can follow my written column that I have over at entrepreneur.com. And beyond that, if you are looking for an ad manager, and the best one you can find at that, this is exactly what I do. And if you want to see if we can work together on a guaranteed basis where we can provide you some sales results on your campaigns up front, no fees until we were able to bring your sales up, then you should reach out to us, because that's exactly what we offer at our firm. And the only catch is we got to know we can get results on your campaigns, but we would tell you that up front, and then we can give you a free analysis on what you have up front with no strings attached as well. So if you're interested in that, reach out to my firm at guaranteeppc.com, and we'll be happy to give you that free analysis. Beyond that, if you are looking for great results but you don't want to work with an ad agency per se, you can simply reach out to us and ask us about our templates. If we've worked in your market before, which we've worked in over 100 markets in the last 10 years now, we can offer you the ads and the landing pages and everything that works great for that market, so you can copy and paste the funnels and or ad templates and everything that we use to get great results in your market. As long as you are not in the same geographic market that our client has worked in, or now or in the past, you can use the exact same thing we're using to get results in your market already. And that obviously saves you tons of time and money. So if we've worked in your market before already and gotten the ironclad results in it, it'd be silly not to use our templates, given it's just a small one-time fee to get that. So anyway, if you want to see if we've worked in your market before, reach out to our firm. As a side note, by the way, we're partnering up with companies as well. So if you don't want to work with an ad agency per se, but you don't want to do all the work necessary to get results either, we will take a percentage of your sales growth and we'll do all of your ads. We've done this with several companies now, and we are looking for more partners in that we're partnering with you long term, and we'll take between 1 and 10% of your sales growth at your company in exchange, and we'll offer to do all of your ads to get, for free, in exchange for 1 to 10% of your sales growth. Anything you're doing now is yours, but we would get 1 to 10% of sales in addition to what you have already. If you're interested in that kind of offer, you can also reach out, and we'll see if we can work together. GuaranteePPC.com, you can reach out, and we can discuss seeing if you would be eligible to join us in that specific program that we offer as well as an option. So with that said, I'll wrap it up with that though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next video where I'll have another outstanding strategy for you to be able to use there as well. See you later.